At least three people have been killed after torrential rains triggered severe flooding across Ghana's capital, Accra. Emergency used boats to rescue trapped residents, including at least 15 children and an infant, as rising floodwaters submerged homes, roads, and vehicles. Authorities say one man drowned in Alajo district, while two others were electrocuted after floodwaters came into contact with electrical wiring inside their home. The government has urged residents to avoid unnecessary travel as police, firefighters, and the military continue rescue operations. Forecasters warn more heavy rain is on the way, raising fears of further flooding in Accra, where rapid urbanization and poor drainage have made seasonal floods increasingly destructive.
Oh, all right, all right. Welcome to This Week in Ghana, your bi-weekly live stream where we talk about all news related to Ghana. As you can see, there are floods sweeping the country, and in particular, Accra, and we're going to talk about it. We also have some conversations around the World Cup, and a social media influencer has recently landed in Ghana to do a version of the tour that we saw with Kai Sinat and Show Speed in the last 12 to 24 months. Before we get into today's stories, we like to start off with introductions. I'll turn it over to my co-host before I introduce myself.
Hello, my name is Ivy Prosper. I am the founder of my company, Prosper Creative Group. I create content, I curate experiences in Ghana. I also am a producer working in documentary production, as well as I am the author of the book, Your Essential Guide on Moving to Ghana. I offer consultations, and I am a speaker. Most recently spoke at a TEDx event in Canada, in Mississauga, just outside of Toronto. So I'm excited about our conversation today, always bringing in the news bi-weekly from Ghana.
Absolutely, and I'm Joe Hatagwa, founder of Authentic African. We help people visit, move, and invest in the continent of Africa. We also share stories from around the continent. So we do this bi-weekly. We do a bi-weekly on Sierra Leone, and we do a bi-weekly on the continent in general. And our goal is to give you guys insight into the countries that we're telling you to visit, move, and invest in. Now, on to the flooding in Accra in particular, because that seems to be where all the viral videos are coming from. As you heard in that video, rapid and massive urbanization, along with poor drainage, has, in their terms, led to much of the flooding that you are seeing. We are going to we will read through the public safety advisory on flooding from the Ministry of Interior in Ghana, and then we will get to another video and then have some commentary on the other side. So let's put this up here on the screen for all of you all to see. There has been, the Ministry of Interior advises the general public to exercise extreme caution following the heavy rain and flooding experienced in several parts of the country this morning. This was released on the 29th. This is Monday, June 29, 2026. That is earlier today. As a precautionary public safety measure, members of the public are advised to remain where they are until conditions improve. Those who are safely at home are urged to stay at home, while those who are in their workplaces or other safe locations should remain there until it is safe to travel. Unnecessary movement should be avoided. One more thing, is a very long message, but I'll just read the next one. Motorists and pedestrians are strongly advised not to attempt to drive or walk through flooded roads, bridges, or waterways, as floodwaters can rise rapidly and pose significant danger to life and property. This is obviously a rather new phenomenon, at least at this level. I think we've talked about this earlier this rainy season, last rainy season, that in general, if you're looking at buying a house, especially in West Africa, let's say, because the Gulf of Guinea is where a lot of heavy torrential downpours happen, right? We have rainy seasons. We basically have 2 seasons, kind of like dry season. They'll have a Hamatan season, but it's basically dry and rainy seasons, right? Most of the countries in the Gulf of Guinea in West Africa have these major seasons. It seems as though this rainy season has been a little bit more aggressive than ones in past, and there's a much more urbanization, which means much more cement, which means a lot less water being soaked into the ground, which means water has to find a way, right? And so one of the things that I think Ivy's done a great job at communicating to folks is, if you're thinking about moving, you should come to Ghana during the rainy season, so you can see, if you're looking at an apartment, if you're looking at a property to buy, what the conditions are like during the rainy season. And with that, I do want to play a quick video, a couple of videos, just so you guys can get an idea of what people are experiencing right now. And we will then give some more commentary with some more specifics. So next, I'm going to show you a video of Circle. And let me see if I can turn off the sound, because it's just music playing in the background. But we will play this video, and you'll be able to see what is happening at Circle today. So you see substantial flooding. Vehicles are stuck in all this flooding. I mean, all these vehicles are in all this flooding here.
It looks so bad. It looks like an entire lake over there.
It does. It does. It reminds me of Venice a little bit. Like, you know, when you're really looking at how much water. I mean, this is, these are obviously drone shots. I do want to then show you another family in their compound, what they were experiencing. This was a video that was sent in the Joy News, and they shared this video on their Instagram page. But I mean, this is what is happening to certain people.
It's awful. It's like they're swimming in a pool, a dirty pool.
Yeah. And I mean, and these are tin houses here that have to be at least 10 feet high, right? I mean, generally that's how they're built, to be about 10 feet. And you see the water is all the way up to almost the roof. And this is in a compound, right? There's also other videos. I mean, there are so many videos on this, but
there's so many. I've seen cars being swept away. It's unbelievable.
It is. It's unbelievable. So on that note, I mean, maybe I'll play one more video so you guys can just see what the damage looks like to vehicles. And then we'll talk about this a little bit more. And then we'll have one solution that's been presented to try to solve for this. But I mean, look at this. Look at this car. Just got swept away. Maybe I should start this video over. Look at that. In their compound. These walls are pretty high, generally about 10 feet. Mm-hmm. And you see what people are dealing with.
Yeah. This year, it's raining more in places that it doesn't even, I mean, it's flooding in places that it doesn't even normally flood.
So let's talk about that, because I think one of the things that, like I said earlier, you've been really good at is trying to help people understand that, come see Ghana during the rainy season so you know what to expect wherever you're planning to buy. And what we're seeing is, I'm hearing that the rainy season's been a little bit more aggressive than usual. I lived in Ghana for 2.5 years. I did notice it was a little bit more, it was a more aggressive rainy season than what I had seen previously. I also do know that there are a lot more buildings being built. I can just say from an example of another country that I've been to, now that there's so much more cement, water isn't soaking into the ground in the mountains, and people who have gutters are just basically sending the water down. So people who are living below are experiencing the flooding. That's what's happening in other countries. But what is happening on the ground in Ghana? As you said, there's certain areas that have been flooding that don't normally flood. Whatever insight you have, if you could share, for sure.
Okay. But before I share my insight, I would love to see what some of the comments are that people are sharing right now, just so we can acknowledge that people have joined the live stream, because sometimes people join and we just want to make sure they know that we know that they're here. Just want to
true.
thank everybody who has joined us so far, and you've made some comments. This one's talking about if we use our platform for donations for the flood victims. Good idea, something to consider. So everybody, thank you for joining. And I'm just going to answer your question in regards to that. One of the things that we've noticed is, as you said, it seems like rainy season is getting worse. Typically, rainy season is supposed to be like for 6 months of the year, and then dry season 6 months of the year. But over time, things have changed, and rainy season is usually maybe 4 months of the year. But this year, it's actually gotten a bit longer again, and it's heavier. So they're saying that the Ghana Meteorology Agency is saying that the rainy season has become worse because of climate change, climate shifts. And then they're also saying compounded with infrastructure, and then poor urban planning is also an issue as well. So when you have a high intensity of rainfall, and if you have planning that isn't being done in a structured way, then you have issues like properties that are built in waterways. So then they're blocking waterways from flowing when it rains. So then if they're blocking it, then it ends up rising. You have people who are dropping plastics into sewage systems, and then it's choking the sewage systems, causing it to block. Then when it rains, it just chokes it, and then things rise, and then the flooding starts. We also have an issue of heavily saturated ground and unable to absorb new rainwater. So Ghana already naturally has a lot of water in the soil. So it actually is, that's why some people are able to use boreholes for their water, because there is a lot of water in the ground naturally in Ghana as it is. And then you top that off with the city of Accra. Greater Accra is actually a low-lying city. I think it's between 70 to 100 meters above seawater. So it's not a high-level city. So if Accra is here, and those of you who've been to Ghana before, you may know Abri, they talk about it being the mountain area. And if Abri is here, Abri is right beside Accra. So when it rains and it hits Abri, and then the rainfall is going to fall down and then settle in Accra on top of the rain that's falling down in Accra. So you have a compound of rain coming from the mountain area that's trickling down to the low-lying city. And then you have places where the ground is not able to absorb the water as fast as the water is coming from the sky. And a part of that is the way that people are building. So for example, people build houses, and people have commented on my videos when I've shown real estate, where they say, where are all the trees? Where's all the greenery? It's all concrete. And that's what's happening. People tear down all the trees. They build a concrete home. They slab concrete all around their property. They don't plant any trees. They don't plant any grass. So if it rains, there's no soil to absorb the water. There's no tree to also absorb the water. There's no plants to also absorb the water. So it's sitting on concrete with nowhere to go. And then it just contributes to the problem, and it makes it more compounded. So we have, there's like a number of factors as to what the issue is. People's poor behavior of throwing the plastics into the system, and people's lack of respect for the law and building places they're not supposed to build could really help to reduce the issue. And then I believe the Forestry Commission has really been trying to get people to plant more. People need to really make, I feel like there should be some policies made for real estate developers to be forced to not be allowed to build something without considering having green spaces within their projects, because those green spaces, as I said, could help to absorb the water, because grass needs water, trees need water, plants need water, and they can also all help to absorb it. And if we're not doing it, then it just becomes very problematic. And this has huge social impact on the system, because it's not just about it raining, a couple of times and flooding and a few people being affected. If one person is affected, let's say it's one house, like you showed those people who were basically swimming in the water on their compound. Mm-hmm. And if they all have jobs, now they're not going to work because they're trying to fix the problem in their home. They're trying to get all the water out. And if those 5 people are not going to work, then that company they work for is not going to be productive. That company's not going to make money. They're going to try to figure out what they're going to do. Then there's small business owners who've lost. I know somebody who has a business, and he showed a video on his page. His machines, his products he was working on for clients, like everything is just destroyed. So it has a compound effect, and I'm just wondering what the repercussions are going to be as far as how much. But I've heard through videos and people talking that it costs up to $100 million a year for all of these seasonal issues that happen, seasonal disruptions that happen as a result of the rain and flooding in Ghana, mostly in Greater Accra, but it does happen in other areas. But the majority of the huge problem is in Greater Accra.
Yeah, that is all really, really helpful context. And to that point, there's always secondary and tertiary impacts on lives, right? So, the informal economy, as many people call it, market women, people who have these shops, they, most of the time, their daily income is how they feed themselves, right? What they sell that day determines what they eat that evening, right? For many. And many people, that is who they purchase their goods and services from. So just like one day of stoppage, 2 days of stoppage have a huge impact on so many people's everyday lives. It's a compounding effect. And the points that you made, I think, are really important ones, where two of some of the maybe the 4 or 5 major issues that are contributing to this are human cost. Right. And that's specifically building in places where you shouldn't be building. And the other is how people are building. As you mentioned, I also do a lot of tours of real estate, Airbnbs, houses, and 90-something%, I would say, I'm just throwing out a number as a percentage of the places that I go to, the entire compound is cement. There is no trees, no grass, nowhere for water to absorb at all. And then I guess the other piece to it too that you mentioned, which I think is really important, is the throwing of and disposing of waste into the gutters. A friend of mine mentioned that she has a friend that it was a day that I wasn't able to go, but they basically went out to many of the major the gutters that feed out into the different water reservoirs, and they went there to kind of unclog them, to remove dirt. And it was an hours-long process, right? Pulling out all of the dirt that was clogging it. And that was born out of the fact that these floods had started earlier in the rainy season. So they spent an entire day going to 3 or 4 of these major places and trying to remove the dirt. And it's something that they do often, because you can do it once, but you're going to have to go back in a couple of weeks to do it again, right? It's just a constant process. And so, yeah, I think that people don't really understand the long-term impact of the actions that they're taking, right? People are just thinking about today when they're building their houses or when they're throwing their dirt into the gutters. I think there's going to need to be a massive overhaul in terms of policy. And as you mentioned, for house building, for recycling, or at the very least waste disposal, right? There are going to need to be some very specific things done. I can tell you that in other cities that I'm familiar with, which they're not perfect, but they got much better. New York City, for example, was one of those that had a very, very big problem. And trust me, it is not perfect. It's not nowhere near close to perfect. But by adding a waste basket at many major corners on major streets, you've reduced by X percentage the amount of garbage that ends up being laying on the street. Like empty garbage. I mean, obviously the bags are on the street. That's a whole nother thing. But generally that helps us reduce the problems and slow down the challenges. And I do think there needs to be a major policy overhaul, as you said, because this is, if next year's rainy season is worse than this year or longer, what if rainy seasons just continue to get worse? What if this is the way things will be happening moving forward? It just will be uninhabitable. at some point for almost all areas, because even though these are specific areas now that are impacted, it's not all of Accra. At some point, it could be. And so, you know, this does need to be solved for. And then the one last thing I'll mention is in the mountain villages, Aburi is now becoming more and more inhabited, as we know. We know many people who are building there, and many of those folks are building large cement structures, right? And there isn't a lot of areas for water to get soaked in. And so, as you mentioned, it was already flowing from the mountains down, but now, you know, you're kind of giving it easier pathways down when you have to build a gutter around your property. This is something I have to think about in Sierra Leone. I know we're talking about Ghana in particular, but we've seen the same thing happen. If you are at the bottom of those mountainous areas, that is what is going to happen. And if the mountains really was some of the first areas where that water gets to seep into the ground. And because that's not happening, that is also contributing. So you have heavy rains, longer rains, and rapid urbanization that really do, compound each other. So yeah, I mean, the only thing that we can do now is policy. Policy is the only way to start to counteract and counterbalance this. And so one additional piece I think that was helpful to see was from a page that I just become familiar with over the last 2 months, called Big Fat African Development. I know you're familiar with them, I think, right, Ivy?
I've seen her video a few times.
So she's had a couple of videos about this, right? This exact topic, in fact. Mm-hmm. Even before the rainy season, she was talking about this. And so she has a solution that she wants to present to try to map this from one of the apps that are there locally called Fix It Now. But let's play this video, and then we'll have a little bit more commentary on this topic. Let's see. Okay, here we go.
Wow.
It's raining in Accra, which means that it's flooding in Accra, and we can't wait for government. We, the citizens, can take the first step to map the problem. We partner with Fix It Now. The links are in our bio to download the app. You can report the issue. So take a picture of where you see flooding, map it, pin it. We're creating a live digital map, and if enough of us do this in the next 2 weeks, Fix It Now can take it to the necessary authorities. But we can do this together, guys. Let's not succumb to the flooding. We can change this problem.
I appreciate at least having a solution, something, because so many people are helpless right now, right? So at least mapping it and speaking to where the major issues are accelerates the ability to do something about it, right? So I like that idea. I hope that it actually works. I think her videos, she's had a couple of videos go viral talking about real estate in Accra and how many times she sees a compound and it's all cement and there is no grass, there's no area for water to soak in. And so she's been speaking about this for a little while now. So yeah, I mean, I thought that was a good idea to offer a solution, because there aren't very many solutions that I've heard except, kind of like a shelter in place kind of solution, right? So what did you think about at least the mapping it and sharing that with the government?
I mean, it's a good idea because then it actually digitizes it. Because I think one of the important things about getting solutions to things is having data. And I think that's one of the problems and challenges Ghana often has is having accurate data. We'll see a lot of people talking about it and sharing information, but to have it actually, in a list form, I'm sure that once it's collected from that site, they are going to create official lists with, percentages and all that. And they're encouraging people. I just hope that people actually use it, because that's the other issue is, will everybody actually report it? Because we do still have a population of people who are lower income and they're not walking around with smartphones. They have the old phones that are just call only and don't have some of the tools that you would have for downloading an app to do it. So that's one of my concerns also. Based on reports right now, the places that are mostly affected are, if you're watching this and you're familiar with Accra, Greater Accra, you'll know the places that I'm mentioning. If you are not familiar with Accra, it gives you the opportunity to look up these places. If you're thinking of moving to Ghana, if you're thinking of buying in Ghana, you're thinking of renting in Ghana, to know that these may be places you may want to, have a second thought about if you decide to get a place. So Kineshi, Adona, Circle, which we showed the video that was all flooded, that area, Adabraka, Awudame, North Kaneshi, Jolu doesn't normally flood, but this time around there's flooding in Jolu, some parts of Achimota, and that's also an area that we don't hear about flooding, that has got some flooding this time around. Weja, they always have flooding issues. They have a dam there. The Weja Dam can sometimes overflow and then flood the area. So Weja, Mallam Junction, I have family in Mallam Junction, so I know that that area floods. Kaswa is close to Weja, so by virtue of being in that area, they have flooding issues. La Paz has flooding in some pockets. Ofankor, Teshi, some of the low-lying areas of Teshi. Choko, Kolebu area has flooding. Alajo has flooding. Avenor, Shiashi, and Shiashi is an area that doesn't usually flood because that is the road going to East Legon. So Shiashi and Opongolo Junction, those areas that don't usually flood, have flooded this time around. And then the Tema motorway, the highway between Tema and Accra, that has flooding happening as well. They've had construction ongoing for the last almost 2 years. I've been saying that they need to really complete this construction. Otherwise, this is going to keep happening. There's a lot of erosion that happens when it rains on that road, which makes the road move slowly. So this time around, people have said that there are sections of the highway that have some flooding. And then Tema usually doesn't have flooding in Tema, but I've seen people post videos about flooding in Tema Community 5, and as well as in Tema Community 18 Junction. People have said that there was severe flooding in that area as well. So there are so many places in Greater Accra that are experiencing this flooding right now. So hopefully this app that she has mentioned on her site is going to have that too.
Absolutely. All very good points. And I think it was important for you to name all the areas where the flooding is happening. That Tema motorway that is how so many people get in and out of for work every day, right? I think I've mentioned this before. It is one way in and one way out. And it is one of those places that if you know, you just be prepared to sit in that traffic and not move for hours sometimes. I've mentioned this previously, that for work at one point in time, I had to go out to Bell Aqua's factory, Wilmar's factory, and you had to go all the way out far into Tema. And it took over 2 hours to come back into Accra at night after a meeting, because everybody is, going back to home or, from work. And so I can't even imagine what that would be like now if the motorway's flooded, because it's just one way in and one way out. So that's also going to disrupt people's lives as well. So, so the moral of the story here, guys, is, look, as I've said before, and I'll say it again because I think Ivy was so right to point this out so many times, if you're planning on visiting, moving, investing, specifically moving or investing in Ghana, understanding the climate today, right now, is very important. When I lived in Ghana, 2023, I did not see so much flooding. Rainy season was short, was not that bad. It was a mild rainy season. And from then to now, the major difference is it's huge. And so you have to stay on top of what's happening today, not going based on what you might have known when the last time you went 5 years ago, 4 years ago, even last year. Today is today. And so, and on that point, if you're thinking about investing in a property, you need to come during this time between now and when does rainy season usually end in Ghana? I don't even know, to be honest.
End of August.
End of August. So I would say, probably between May and August is probably the best time to go and see as the rains have begun. But it seems like it obviously picks up more, and then it kind of tapers off. So, into July is probably going to be some of the more harsher months. Generally is that way in other neighboring countries or nearby countries. But that would be the time to make the visit to see if where you're investing has challenges with flooding, or where you're planning to rent. You know, the neighborhood you're looking at. This would be the time to go. Tickets are cheaper during this time, just so you know, right? Because less people are traveling.
Actually, they're not even right now.
Well, versus December. I mean, they're not cheap, but versus December, aren't they? They're cheaper now than December.
I mean, compared to December, yes, but you can get less in like February, March, April. You get and October, September, October is less than now.
Fair. And I would imagine that it's probably the prices are probably up a bit because people are flying out of Ghana too a lot of times during the rainy season too. We find that
it's because of peak summer season.
Yeah,
summer in the northern hemisphere, people travel.
Yeah,
so the airlines know that.
Supply and demand, right? So, but this would be the time. This would be the time to go and to see. All right. So, moving on to the next stories. So that app was the Fix It Now app. If you're in Accra, Ghana, you should check out Big Fat African Development and check out the app that she's talking about. So now on to the World Cup. And there's so many conversations and so many stories about the World Cup. Where do we begin?
We begin with saying this is the first time that 10 African countries were in the World Cup. 10 African countries made it to the World Cup. So that is where we start, that we should be proud of all those teams who made it to the highest level of the sport.
Right. And many are advancing, right, as well, even beyond making
Yes,
it.
9 teams advanced.
Which is huge, right? 10 made it, 9 teams advanced. Though the one team that does not advance, a lot of Africans were not supporting. We've had this conversation earlier in the week. South Africa does not advance, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, they were part of the 9 that advanced, but then they lost yesterday to Canada, so they didn't make it further than the 32.
That's it. There you go. Okay, so as far as the tournament is concerned, it was obviously held in North America, so Mexico, Canada, and the United States. A couple of things that happened to be challenges for folks was many people were granted single entry visas to the United States. So if you are like a reporter, you were granted a single entry visa to the US. But if you wanted to go follow a team to Canada or to Mexico, you could not come back into the US. There were many stories like that. Beyond that, you had a very well known and a very well respected was the Ethiopian referee or official?
Yes, the Ethiopian referee was denied entry into the United States for FIFA, where he was going to be refereeing matches. And he is the strongest referee from Africa. And so, I mean, for me, first of all, because Somalia is on one of the banned lists from the United States is a large part of why he didn't get in. And then secondly, it's a lack of representation for an African referee, because representation matters when it comes to decision making in the sport. And so it's an unfortunate situation that happened. And it just showed that people were complaining that FIFA did not help people who were coming specifically for the matches, for the tournament, that FIFA should have been involved in trying to help them. But they said that they don't have any control over what countries' decisions are when it comes to their visa approvals. I've read that Canada approved only 41% of World Cup related visitor applications, because a lot of people were trying to come to Canada as well, including one of Ghana's players was denied entry into Canada. And his was because, for those who may not know, he has some pending charges right now for 7 allegations of sexual assault. I should have said SA. Should I have just said SA? He has 7 allegations. And so he was not allowed entry into Canada. And there were some Ghanaians who were not happy about it. Some complained that they should have given him, grace because of the tournament. I was saying that Canada has always been strict, even for things that are less harsh. I know somebody who was denied entry into Canada, an American citizen was denied entry into Canada because of unpaid speeding tickets, which is far less harsh than what he's being accused of. So Canada is pretty strict with those things. And then I learned that only 11% of Ghanaians who applied to go to Canada during the World Cup were actually approved. So 89% of applications of people who wanted to come were denied. That's what I read on Yahoo Sports. So people coming from countries that had the highest refusal rates, from what I read on our website, was included Uganda, Sri Lanka, and Syria were some of the applications that were denied in high numbers. And a lot of Africans in general had denials, so it made it difficult for them to have fans in the stands supporting them because they couldn't even travel for the tournament.
Absolutely. And as an American who doesn't watch much soccer at all, football, this is one of the things that we've been having conversations a lot about. Most of the conversations have been about the unfortunate nature of how the host countries are always supposed to be welcoming, right? That's a big part of it. And apparently the US, when lobbying for the ability to host the World Cup, did say they'd be very welcoming as part of the process. And unfortunately, it's just not the case. The DRC, of course, has had to go through a number of different things because of the Ebola outbreak. The Cameroonians were seen in a viral video having extra searches done. They later confirmed that they were told ahead of time that if they wanted to have a more expedient process, they'd have to go through these additional searches early on, and then that would allow them to move. But there were so many different stories about fans who wanted to come, who were denied visas, people who had gone to different countries previously in Europe and in Asia to watch their favorite team play, their country play. And they don't have that ability with the United States because, of course, the US has the visa restrictions. So a couple things to share. There was you guys might be familiar with the DRC superfan who has come to prominence very recently in the sense that he stands at attention throughout the entire game. They do say he bears a resemblance to Patrice Lumumba. And so, but he has become a viral member, and he was denied visa entry to the United States, but I think he eventually was able to go to Mexico to
he went to Mexico first, I believe.
Yeah. So
maybe I'm wrong, but I know.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say he was in Mexico and then denied the U.S.
Right. So he was denied U.S. entry. He did go to Mexico, yes, eventually. But these are just one of the many stories that are coming out of the World Cup. And it's unfortunate, too, because, while this is all happening, so many deals are being done between different countries on the continent of Africa and the United States. And this has been a conversation that has been ongoing for many folks, is that, as Africans, we continue to take this level of disrespect, but then come with hat in hand to the US and to the EU, et cetera, for these kinds of deals that aren't necessarily beneficial to our countries in the first place. Anything else on the World Cup you want to cover or talk about?
No, let's just cheer on the teams and see how far they go. The remaining 8 now teams that are going to be playing through this round of 32. Let's wish them all well and hope that they go far. And it would be nice to see more than one team advance into the round of 16.
Absolutely. Maybe one thing I can do is maybe share a little bit from the round of 32 and what games are left. So these are the games that are left. Today, Morocco's playing. Tomorrow, Cote d'Ivoire is playing. DRC is playing on Wednesday. Senegal's also playing on Wednesday. And let's see, Algeria is playing on Thursday. Egypt's playing on Friday. Our friends Cape Verde or Cabo Verde are playing on Friday as well. And then, of course, Ghana is playing on Friday. And that is, these are single elimination games, right? So the winner of
single
these
elimination.
Games,
Yeah. And Ghana has been accused of intentionally losing against Croatia so that they don't have to face Portugal,
which is the team that Ronaldo is on.
Yeah.
You know, I heard that as well. But you know, you never want to take that risk. But okay, apparently, some people say they would have preferred to play Colombia than Portugal. Maybe, I don't know. I hope not. But you know, at the end of the day, you got to be strategic. The further you can go, let somebody else knock them out. Okay, so that is the last of it on the World Cup. And then we have one last story. There is a social media influencer. He's a fitness influencer. His name is Aston Hall. I think he went viral last year for his morning routine. He, like many other influencers, have seen the value in doing streams and videos on the continent of Africa. So he himself recently announced his Africa tour. And let's just play the announcement video. And then he's recently landed in Ghana, so we'll have to go ahead and watch that as well. But he's an interesting character. He definitely has caught the attention of many. So we'll play his announcement video, and then we'll play the video of him just recently coming to Ghana. So this is his announcement video announcing that he's going to be doing a short tour of the continent of Africa, a number of different countries, much like Kai Cenat and iShowSpeed had done previously. So a couple things. He's known for doing these running next to vehicles videos. One thing you'll notice from this video is his attire. Presumably this is what he thinks Africans dress like, because this is not what he normally runs in, to be clear. This is specific for this Africa video. So this actually had a lot of controversy around it. Many people took issue with this particular video because of the attire. If you see how he's wearing spandex shorts and torn shorts over top of it to depict what most people think is what he thinks Africans dress like. So this was the announcement video of him making the announcement that he was coming to Africa. Any commentary on this before I play the commentary of another video of him actually arriving in Ghana recently?
Oh, I mean, I don't really have much to say because, to be quite honest, I didn't know who he was until you mentioned it to me before we went live today. But I do see how it is that when people look at his attire, it almost looks like that Tarzan kind of look that maybe he was going for. Maybe his team told him that that's what he should wear to do his promo video. So, yeah.
Yeah, stirred up a lot of controversy at the time that it came out a couple of weeks ago. But this is a video that somebody just did recently, just to give you a little bit of a quick recap of his arrival and some of the things that he's been doing so far since arriving in Ghana.
What happens when one of America's biggest fitness influencers lands in Ghana? And does he find what social media told him to expect?
is this? Oh, what's up, bro? Oh, he there. Oh, shoot. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
All right, so there are many videos of, this is just from the first night. There are many videos that you can watch on his trip here. I will say one of the things that I think I Show Speed did that made sense was that he had a kind of like a chaperone and Shaka Bars and a few others to kind of help him navigate as he went around. I think that was one of the missed opportunities for other folks who have done similar things like this. From a distance, we'll continue to watch his tour and see what the impact of it is and what he ends up doing. It is news to me that he was coming to Ghana on this day. I don't normally follow Aston, so I just know about some of the previous videos that have gone viral. But let's see what he ends up doing in Ghana and what his experience is. It is interesting to see people who make the trip for the first time and decide to do some of the touristy things, share their experience, see what it's like to be in Ghana. It should be interesting to see what his experience is. Someone who has, from all of what I've seen, had never visited the continent of Africa. So it should be interesting to see where he goes and what he does and what he shares with his audience and how that impacts his audience. I think there's probably some overlap with I Show Speed. He's not nearly as big as I Show Speed, but I would imagine he does have a different audience of fitness influencers and folks. And so we'll see what that means for, what his audience sees and what that means for, his experience and what he communicates about his experience coming to the continent. So I'm interested to see what that ends up being when it's all said and done. Okay. On that note,
Can I say something?
Yeah, please.
I think that it's just shows how much people are becoming more and more interested in countries like Ghana for a place to come for holidays or a place to come and create content because they know that the content is valuable to other people. So influencers continuing to come, media personalities continuing to make the decision to come to Ghana just continues to show why it's known as the gateway to Africa and why, despite infrastructure issues, because we started this talking about the flooding problems, people know there's issues in Ghana, but people still keep coming. So him coming is just another example of people keep coming. They still want to see, people are intrigued by what the country has to offer. They still want to see, from a tourist standpoint, some of the experiences that they can have in the country. Because despite the infrastructure problems that people who live there have, it still is a really great destination place for vacations. So if you're coming for vacation, it's great for vacations. Your experience on vacation is not going to be the same as somebody who's actually living there. Someone will come on vacation and stay at Labadi Beach Hotel, or they'll stay at Kempinski, Movenpick, they'll stay at, Kwale, somewhere that they're not experiencing some of those serious issues that people who live there are experiencing in certain communities.
Absolutely. And year over year, we're seeing at least 100,000 more people enter the country of Ghana between 24 and 2025. I'm interested to see what that number is in 2026. And that number in round numbers is 1.3 million people in 2025, 1.28 in 2024. So yeah, I mean, with all of these major folks coming and shining light on all the different things that you can do, I do think that just opens up the idea of travel to a new audience. I can't tell you how many times I talk to people now, and the new flex is, I want to do a vacation to Ghana. It used to be Tulum or some other place in the Caribbean, or even Dubai, but now I'm hearing Ghana as a destination that people want to be able to say they've gone to or they're planning to go to.
Yeah.
So shout out to the Ghana Tourism Authority in the years 2019, 2020, Ivy Prosper being a part of that process and all the things that happened throughout that time to kind of build right? It's been building ongoing. I think 2019, 1.13 million people came to Ghana or went to Ghana. And then it dropped off, obviously, 2020 because of the C-19 pandemic. It jumped right back up by 2023 to 1.1, then to 1.2, then to 1.3 in the subsequent years. So we will see what happens in 2026. We anticipate more videos, and people like Aston Hall will probably make their way to the continent and probably learn a thing or two when making that trip. So interested to see how these all pan out. So that's it for us. The last thing I guess I'll mention is, if you haven't already, make sure you follow everybody on all platforms. Follow Ivy at Ivy Prosper on all platforms. My channel is Authentic African on all platforms. I am partnering with Ito on winning a trip to Ghana. If you're interested in that, you can head over to ito.authenticafrican.com to enter for your chance to win. And that is all I have. Any final words before we go?
Thank you so much for joining us today, all of you. Sorry we couldn't get to all your questions. I know some of you asked things about homeowners insurance. Quickly, homeowner insurance in Ghana, yes, they have it. Not everybody buys it, but yes, they have it, but not everybody buys it. Are there reservoirs for water to drain? There are, but they're clogged. Yeah, there's still a lot of improvement to go. So thank you, everybody, for sharing your thoughts. And then Fred said Colombia is a beast for Ghana as well. I agree, they are a beast. So let's see what happens. But thank you, all of you who were engaged in the conversation, sharing your thoughts and everything. And we look forward to the next time in 2 weeks when we do our bi-weekly live stream together again. And don't forget to follow me on all my platforms as Ivy Prosper. And then for those of you who are in Ghana, who are in Kumasi, I'm doing my Tall Ghana event in Kumasi, July the 20th, bringing tall people together in community to share and exchange experiences and have a great time. I've had 2 of them already, and it was really good. And by popular demand in my DMs, people are asking for other cities, and Kumasi was one of them. So we're coming to Kumasi with Tall Ghana on the 20th of July at Starbites Osakwa branch in Kumasi.
Nice. And I always like a good Starbites meal. So yes, and congrats to you on all of the success of the Tall brand. I mean, it's like grown some legs of its own. It's become a thing. So I'm happy to see it. As someone who's not part of the Tall crew, you know,
that's okay. Some people who are not tall came to the event to come and experience it.
I would have come if I was in town when it happened, but
yeah,
I think it's worth it. It's worth it. It's actually really interesting to kind of see the full range of height that you find in Ghana for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So with that, thanks for watching all. We will see you all on the next live stream. Bye, guys.
Bye for now.